Tom Brady is regarded as the best player in NFL history. Despite this, he slid to the 6th round and was selected by the New England Patriots in the 2000 NFL Draft. So why did everyone pass on Brady? We will break down his college career, what scouts were saying about him leading up to the draft, what all unfolded on draft night, try to get into the minds of the GMs that passed on him, and discuss what 31 other teams missed out on. Brady's college career. Tom Brady was a member of the 2000 recruiting class. At this time, recruiting looked far different from what we see today. For instance, there was no such thing as star ratings. Many speculate that Brady would have come into college as a 3 or 4-star recruit. Despite this, it is arguable that he was being more heavily recruited for baseball than football. He was a standout catcher and would eventually go on to be drafted into the MLB. His father stated that Brady's top 5 schools were Cal Berkeley, UCLA, USC, Michigan, and Illinois. However, California was the only school interested in him early on. He would end up attending the University of Michigan. Things began to look up for the future GOAT in 1998. In his 3rd year at Michigan, Brady finally worked his way up the depth chart and earned the starting spot. In 12 games, he threw for 2,427 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He ranked 4th in his conference in passing yards and passing touchdowns this season. The legend of Tom Brady almost ended before it really got the chance to begin. Michigan brought in a highly touted freshman and a local hero, Drew Henson. Once again, Brady had to fight for time on the field. The season began with the 2 splitting snaps. However, Brady would eventually come out on top. This had a massive negative impact on his draft stock. One of the most highly regarded draft analysts, Mel Kiper Jr., gave Brady a 5th round grade and ranked him as the 10th best quarterback in the 2000 draft. With hindsight, we know Brady should have been the 1st overall pick. However, he had not proven that in college, and to this day, Kiper Jr. still stands by his scouting report. Overall, he was very high on Brady. He complimented his efficiency and consistency, even against elite competition. The only gripe he had was his lack of mobility, which is a more than fair criticism. Other scouts were not nearly as high on Brady. One report had a long list of weaknesses, including poor build, skinny, lacks great physical stature and strength, lacks mobility and ability to avoid the rush, lacks a really strong arm, can't drive the ball downfield, does not throw a really tight spiral, system-type player who can get exposed if forced to ad-lib, and gets knocked down easily. It was scouting reports like these that Brady used as sources of added motivation even after he became a Super Bowl champion. Who were the quarterbacks selected before Brady? There were 6 quarterbacks that would end up being selected over Tom Brady. He would even end up falling short of Mel Kiper Jr.'s 5th round grade. However, he was far from the 10th quarterback off the board. We will break down how the 6 quarterbacks picked over him ended up faring in the NFL compared to Brady. Chad Pennington, 1st round, 18th overall, New York Jets. The first quarterback off of the board in the 2000 draft was Chad Pennington. The New York Jets selected him in the 1st round with the 18th overall pick. He finished 5th in the Heisman voting in 1999, making him what seemed to be the clear best option. In his 3 years at Marshall, he threw for 11,446 yards, 107 touchdowns, and 30 interceptions. Outside of Brady, Pennington arguably had the best NFL career out of any quarterback in the 2000 draft. He spent 10 years in the league playing for the Jets and Miami Dolphins. He retired with a record of 44-37, threw for 17,823 yards, 102 touchdowns, and 64 yards. Along with this, he was named the most improved player in 2002, and was named the league's Comeback Player of the Year twice in 2006 and 2008. Although he was no Tom Brady, he still put together a very respectable career. Giovanni Carmazzi, 3rd round, 65th overall, San Francisco 49ers. There was a big gap in the draft before another quarterback went off the board. The San Francisco 49ers selected Giovanni Carmazzi in the 3rd round with the 65th overall pick. This was a huge blow to Brady. He grew up as a 49ers fan and idolized Joe Montana. Even once he established himself as one of the best of all time, Brady still always kept the door open on potentially playing in San Francisco. Carmazzi attended Hofstra, which at the time was a Division I AA school. Although he played against inferior competition, the 49ers were betting heavily on his potential. He finished his college career with 9,920 yards, 71 touchdowns, both of which were school records. In the NFL, Carmazzi struggled to find his footing and was never given the chance to start or even take a snap in an NFL regular season game. He did appear in the preseason Pro Football Hall of Fame game in 2000 against Brady. In that game, Carmazzi completed 3 of his 7 passing attempts for 19 yards in a 20-0 loss. He went on to play in the NFL Europe League and the CFL. Chris Redman, 3rd round, 75th overall, Baltimore Ravens. Chris Redman was selected shortly after Carmazzi in the 3rd round with the 75th overall pick by the Baltimore Ravens. He spent 4 years as the starting quarterback at Louisville. During that time, he threw for 12,541 yards, 84 touchdowns, and 51 interceptions. In the NFL, he did not get much of a chance to play, finishing with a record of 4-8 and throwing for 3,179 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. Despite this, he still remained in the league for 11 seasons, playing for the Ravens and Atlanta Falcons. He was a part of the Super Bowl winning Ravens team in 2000 and was technically a Super Bowl champion before Brady. T. Martin, 5th round, 163rd overall, Pittsburgh Steelers. There was another large gap before another quarterback was taken off the board. In the 5th round, with the 163rd overall pick, the Pittsburgh Steelers picked T. Martin. In college at Tennessee, it took Martin some time to win the starting spot. He took over the Volunteer starting quarterback in his junior year and finished his collegiate career with 4,592 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. His NFL career would not last long. He finished with a record of 0-0 and threw for 69 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He saw the field in one season with the Steelers, then went on to join the Oakland Raiders before being cut and spending some time in the NFL Europe League. Mark Bulger, 6th round, 168th overall, New Orleans Saints. Mark Bulger was quickly selected after Martin was taken off the board. Bulger was picked by the New Orleans Saints in the 6th round with the 168th overall pick. He spent 3 of his 4 years at West Virginia as the team's starting quarterback. Over his collegiate career, he was able to throw for 8,153 yards, 59 touchdowns, and 34 interceptions. Outside of Brady, he could also be considered to have the strongest NFL career from this class. It took him a bit to get his footing in the league. He was waived from the Saints after training camp and spent 2 weeks with the Atlanta Falcons before being cut again. He found his home with the St. Louis Rams after joining their practice squad late in the 2000 season. In his 8 seasons with the Rams, he put together a record of 41-54 and threw for 22,814 yards, 122 touchdowns, and 93 interceptions. Along with this, he was named to the Pro Bowl twice. Spurgeon Wynn, 6th round, 183rd overall, Cleveland Browns. The final quarterback selected in front of Brady was Spurgeon Wynn, selected in the 6th round with the 183rd overall pick. In 2 seasons at Texas State, he threw for 3,497 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 19 interceptions. He played 2 seasons in the NFL, one with the Browns and one with the Minnesota Vikings. In that time, he had an 0-3 record and threw for 585 yards, 1 touchdown, and 7 interceptions. Tom Brady, 6th round, 199th overall, New England Patriots. Finally, in the 6th round, with the 199th overall pick, the New England Patriots would select Tom Brady. Although no one knew it at the time, this pick would set the Patriots up to be the best dynasty in football and change the entire trajectory of the franchise. As we now know, Tom Brady went on to have the greatest career of all time. However, just like at Michigan, he would have to wait to get his chance to see the field. In his rookie season, he would only throw 3 passes. Shockingly, it took less time for him to win the starting spot in New England than it did in Michigan. After an injury to Drew Bledsoe, Brady took over and never looked back. In only his 2nd year in the league, he led the Patriots to an 11-3 record, throwing for 2,843 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He would also make his first of 15 Pro Bowl appearances. Despite not having the greatest playoff run individually, Brady proved himself as a leader and an elite game manager throughout the postseason. In 3 games, Brady threw for 572 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Despite this, the Patriots went on to win the Super Bowl, and Brady would collect his first of 7 rings. The Patriots would miss the playoffs in 2002. However, they still had a respectable 9-7 record. Along with this, Brady got much more comfortable as a starter and began to have much more of an impact within the offense. He finished the season with 3,764 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. In 2003, New England was back to their reign of dominance. They finished with a 14-2 record, and Brady finished 3rd in the MVP voting. He threw for 3,620 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. In the postseason, New England once again took care of business and brought home another Super Bowl. Brady played much better in this playoff run, throwing for 792 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. 2004 was nearly identical to 2003 for both Brady and the Patriots. They once again finished with a 14-2 record, and Brady had nearly identical passing stats. He was named to the Pro Bowl and had another efficient run through the playoffs that culminated in another Super Bowl victory. New England would go on a championship drought from 2005 to 2013, after winning 3 rings in Brady's first 4 seasons in the NFL. Despite this, over this time Brady established himself as one of the top talents in the league. Through this stretch, he raked up 38,916 yards, 290 touchdowns, and 96 touchdowns, and led the Patriots to an overall record of 114-31. Along with this, he was named to 8 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro First Teams, and 1 All-Pro Second Team, won 2 MVPs, finished top 3 in voting 2 other times, and 2 Offensive Player of the Year awards, only 3 games. The Patriots would go on to win their 4th Super Bowl of the Tom Brady era. In 2016, the Patriots would be back in the Super Bowl. Brady was forced to miss some time due to a suspension. However, the team went 11-1 with him as a starter. With Tom well rested going to the playoffs, the Patriots put together another Super Bowl winning playoff run. This would also be the first time in his career that Brady would eclipse 1,000 yards in a single postseason. He finished with 1,137 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions in only 3 games. In 2018, New England would win their final Super Bowl of the Tom Brady era. Although he struggled through the playoff run, throwing more interceptions than touchdowns, the Patriots defense stepped up in the Super Bowl, and they took down the Los Angeles Rams by a final score of 13-3. After falling short in the 2019 playoffs, it was clear it was time for a change in New England for Tom and the Patriots. Brady wanted to go somewhere where the front office was willing to spend more and surround him with more talent, factoring in better weather for his age, as well as organizational influence. After Brady shocked the league by choosing his new home in Tampa Bay, the Bucs knew what they were getting in the living legend. Brady brought a commanding presence, swagger, and determination that led the Buccaneers to an 11-5 record and defeated the Kansas City Chiefs in a dominating performance that won Tom Brady the 7th and final Super Bowl ring of his career. In his final 2 years in Tampa, the Buccaneers could never find the motivation to reach the elite level of play they saw in the 2020 season. Most of the team prior to his rival was built around ring-hungry veterans, and once they reached their goal in 2021, they were never able to reignite that fire. Unlike Tom, most players in the league do not have his unwavering desire to win rings every year. They get the bag, and if they can get a ring, what more is there to want? That's what separates the great from the rest. In the final game of his career, Tom and the Buccaneers were taken down by the Dallas Cowboys by a final score of 31-14. This was not the Peyton Manning-esque retirement that many expected to see from Brady. However, he gave everything that he could to the game. The Buccaneers just did not have what it took to put together another Super Bowl run. Despite this, Brady retired as the greatest quarterback of all time, and without a doubt a first-ballot Hall of Famer. What those 6 teams missed out on. While a couple of quarterbacks from the 2000 class were able to put together solid NFL careers, none of them will be able to stack up to Brady's accomplishments. He retired with a regular season record of 251 wins to 82 losses, throwing for 89,214 yards, 649 touchdowns, and 212 interceptions. In the postseason, he had a record of 35-13 and compiled 13,400 yards, 88 touchdowns, and 40 interceptions. In terms of all-time ranks, he finished first in passes completed, passing attempts, passing yards, passing touchdowns, game-winning drives, fourth quarter comebacks, total offense, games started, playoff games, and 10th in passer rating. He also stacked up a mind-blowing amount of accolades, including 7 Pro Bowls, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 regular season MVPs, 15 Pro Bowl appearances, 3 All-Pro First Team appearances, and 3 All-Pro Second Team appearances. Although there was absolutely no way for any general managers setting up their draft board in 2000 to know just what Brady would end up being, I guarantee all 31 teams that passed on him still kick themselves about it to this day.